Now you move on to the third tier of wide receivers here. And I think this group is very interesting because I think there's a chance that these guys are going to be big factors for Carolina this year. They can earn more playing time as the season goes along, but going into the year, they are probably looked at as second string guys. They'll appear on the depth chart, but they won't necessarily be overly, expected to be counted on that much to start the season. I start with a guy like Alex Taylor. I went to ACC kickoff. I was asking about some of the guys in the wide receiver room that had really stepped up. The first guy that Jordan Shipp told me was Alex Taylor. The first guy that was a tough cover for Thaddeus Dixon was Alex Taylor. So this is a guy that's being raved about. I remember when I wrote about him back in his recruiting cycle, him, Jordan Shipp in the same recruiting cycle. I believe that was the 2024 cycle, but I may be getting that wrong. It's so tough to keep up with all the different recruiting cycles that are coming through. But when I wrote about him, I said this is the most complete receiver in this room because I thought that his ability with the 50-50 balls was just as good, if not better, than Jordan Shipp's. And I thought that he really impacted the game in just about every level. Last year, he was a guy that I think really shined in some of the preseason stuff. He was a guy that, was looked at as sort of a practice MVP, that type of guy that was on the rise. And now this year, you look at the receivers that are ahead of him, we're trusting guys that are just a little bit more experienced than him. But I would not be shocked if Alex Taylor is a name that we're talking about as the season goes along that starts taking some of those reps away. If Kobe Paysour or Chris Culliver starts to struggle, he's certainly a name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy who just had, I think it was one catch last year for 15 yards, but there is potential there. And it's another guy that fits the mold. The production or the lack of the production isn't a reflection of the talent that he is. I think he's poised to take a step this year and become a guy that maybe when we're doing this preview next year, he's a breakout name that we're talking about that'll be ready to jump on the scene in a big way. So the two guys here, you mentioned with Alex Taylor in tier 3, you got Paul Billups the second in tier 3 as well. Billups, a guy that last year, 4 catches, 27 yards, but there were different times where it felt like in an important situation, you would see him on the field. Maybe the football wasn't thrown his way, but there were snaps he was playing that I would look at you and be pretty blunt and say, why the hell is he on the field? Why is he getting playing time? I think these are guys that you look at and say, this is where the depth and the committee approach are really going to benefit them, because I think Bill Belichick and Freddie Kitchens are going to be open to finding some other guys that they can count on to make plays, keep these guys fresh, not run the same 2-3 wide receivers out there, for 65, 70, 75 plays every single Saturday. So really am eager to see what Alex Taylor looks like in a bigger role, because if you say he was the best wide receiver in that class that includes Jordan Shipp, then there's something there that we have yet to see at the college level, and hopefully that shows up in a big way this upcoming season.
Yeah, and just because I say that he was a better prospect than Jordan Shipp doesn't necessarily mean that he ends up being better than Jordan Shipp at the college level. Shipp was a guy that I really loved as well in that class. One of my favorites. I mean, you go back to that class, Taylor and Shipp were two of my favorite guys, if not my two favorites. So I think he certainly has a chance to, eventually be alongside Shipp and provide a great 1-2 tandem at the wide receiver spot for Carolina. It's just, does he get on the field a lot this year? Is he able to make that jump this year, or does he maybe have to wait until next year? Paul Billups, I think that's another guy. The reason why he's on the field is because he's developing. It took a little bit of time. He was a guy that when he came in out of the high school level really needed to develop pre-snap snap. I think he's gotten a little bit better there. The big thing with him is that he can go up and win jump balls. We saw him flash a little bit last spring, and he was a guy that was being talked about as by Mac Brown as someone that could step up last season, but never really got the opportunity to do that. And I think now his route tree is a little more complex or a little more complete. I do think that he's a guy that has some ability after the catch, but most importantly, it's that ability to win those contested catches. If he can do that, I mean, Carolina, there's always going to be room for you on the field, and Carolina's looking for those types of guys. So I think that's certainly a name to keep an eye on. Again, this is a group that I just don't know how effective they're going to be able to be with the guys that are ahead of them in the room, but I do think could surprise you, could jump up there if they make big leaps in fall camp and if some of the guys ahead of them struggle just a little bit.